Hello students, this is Dr. Vibha Tiwari, Assistant Professor of English, Chaudhary Balluram Godara Government Girls College, Sri Ganganagar. Students, in my previous videos, I had taken up the poem Locksley Hall by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Today, I am going to take up the poem further. But if you want to understand the poem fully, you must watch the previous videos first. So let's have the lines for today. Then her cheek was pale and thinner than should be for one so young, and her eyes on all my motions with a mute observance hung. And I said, my cousin Amy, speak and speak the truth to me. Trust me, cousin, all the current of my being says to thee. Students, in my previous video, I had told you that the narrator very beautifully describes the change in the weather and the effect of the season of spring on birds and human beings. And there he had told that spring is the season which makes young people fall in love. So he himself fell in love with his cousin Amy, and this thing is being described in the present lines rather. He says, then her cheek was pale and thinner than should be for one so young. Describing his cousin, he says she was of pale color and her cheek was also thin. She was very young. Even then, the color of his cheek and the, we can say check texture, it was not suited even for one who is so young. And all her eyes on all my motion with a mute observance hung. And she used to be always in the company of narrator. And the narrator says she used to observe all my actions without speaking anything, mutely. That means when you fall in love with someone, you want to be in the company of that fellow, whether you discuss something with him or not, but you simply want to stick to that fellow. So same was the case here also. She was also smitten in love with the narrator. So the narrator says, at that time when I was in her company and I had fallen in love with her, she also wanted to be with me. And whenever she was with me, she did not speak anything. Rather, she used to watch my actions. And I said, finally, the narrator declared his love for his cousin. And he said, my cousin Amy, speak and speak the truth to me. Finally, the narrator proposed his cousin. And he said, that just tell me the truth. Trust me, cousin, all the current of my being says to thee. And he said that my whole life is devoted to you now. That's an open declaration of love, and that's what the narrator did. See, if we look at these lines very closely, we can find that not only though the narrator is saying that the beloved or Amy looked at all his actions very keenly, but the way he had described the color of her cheek, it tells us that even he was also very observant about his cousin. So finally he gathered the courage and declared his love for her. And he said that I simply want the truth from your side also, because now my life solely depends on you. So this is, you can say, a marvelous declaration of love. Let's proceed further. On her pallid cheek and forehead came a color and a light, as I have seen the rosy red flashing in the northern night. He said, the narrator says that just as I declared my love for her, the pale colored cheek and forehead of Amy, they suddenly became red. That means she started blushing and it's a very natural thing. So when he declared his love for her, she started blushing, and there came a kind of color, redness on her face and forehead. And there is a very beautiful use of simile. He says the color that came on the face and forehead, cheek and forehead of the lady, that can be compared with the rosy redness that comes at the time of moonrise in the northern sky. So that redness can be compared to the color of the blush that appeared on the face of Amy as he declared his love for her. And she turned. And when this happened, when the narrator declared his love for her, as a reaction to that, she lightly turned towards him, her bosom shaken with a sudden storm of sighs. Now, this is very graphical description of the, you can say, reaction of the lady. The narrator could see even her bosom shaking, as if she was trying to suppress the excitement. Naturally, it was such sudden declaration. Probably she wanted some time to come to terms with this thing. So she turned towards the narrator, and as she turned, there was a kind of excitement in her, and because of that, she was heaving, and as she was heaving, the narrator could see the shaking of the bosom. All the spirit deeply dawning in the dark of hazel eyes, and the narrator not only could see the shaking of the bosom, but also he saw that there was a kind of, the color of the eyes of that lady was hazel. Suddenly the color deepened. And why the color deepened? When you are very much happy about something and you're trying to say something in that moment of excitement, your body suddenly becomes a sort of medium to express. You don't have to utter anything from your mouth, the body itself responds. So same was the case with the lady also. So in these lines, very you can say quite sensuous. These lines are quite sensuous because they are very graphically describing the reaction of the lady as she heard to the open avowal of the narrator who declared his love for her. And as she heard it, there was a sudden kind of blush on her face, which the narrator had compared with the redness of the northern sky at the time of moonrise. And she became excited, and she wanted to just, somehow she was trying to check that excitement, and her body in this process, her body was shaking, and there was a kind of color that was also reflected in her eyes. So very beautiful lines are these, which are describing the reaction of the lady, of the beloved, when the lover expresses his love for her. We'll continue in the same poem in my next video. For today, it's over.